If you're debating whether you are putting your body through too much stress, then you probably are. Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be running through your stress levels and its effect on acne. You've probably heard at some point that people's skin tends to worsen throughout periods of excessive stress, and this has not only been proven anecdotally but through studies as well. Stress has two mechanisms through which it can worsen acne. Firstly, the increase in cortisol can cause the glands that produce androgens to go into overdrive, and also the male hormones present in both sexes. This happens more in females who make most of their androgens in the adrenal glands. Therefore, this could explain why females seem to suffer more from acne caused by stress than the men do. Secondly, raised cortisol can cause an inflammatory response in the body, particularly chronic stress, which is the bigger issue here. We know that anything that increases inflammation in the body will likely make acne worse. Hence why a lot of the practices I advise you on are centered around the idea of reducing inflammation. The problem with this issue is that just having acne can make us stressed out, and therefore this can become a vicious cycle. So what are some forms of stress? When we think of stress, we can often just think of the mental stress or emotional stress, such as relationship problems, anxiety from a big event like an exam or a wedding, bullying, your health or another individual's health, or an overwhelming workload. But we can experience physical stress as well, such as a lack of sleep, being too sedentary, smoking, drinking or other drugs, having too many things to do in too little time, or physically exerting ourselves too much without adequate rest. Now, what can you do to reduce your stress levels? Well, I believe that very much depends on the sources of your stress. So I would suggest evaluating your current lifestyle to see the biggest sources of your stress and ask yourself, what can I do to make this less of a burden? If you have too much of a workload at work, could you ask another colleague to assist with some of the work or speak to your boss? If you don't ask, you won't get. Or are you currently in a relationship that feels as if you're dealing with one dilemma after another? Then you need to ask yourself whether the issues are solvable or whether you need to cut it off for the sake of your own well-being. I'll talk through some of the stressful times I've had and how I overcame them to give you an idea of how you may want to approach certain situations. So I had one job last year which I found incredibly stressful. I was traveling over 6,000 miles some months. The targets were never enough, so if we exceeded a target, it meant we would need to exceed that target in the next month. I was consistently working over 50-hour weeks without the traveling actually included. So being away from my family and my friends consistently with a lack of sleep, a lack of joyful play and socializing was really starting to take an effect on my mental health. In this scenario, I could have tried to make adjustments, but ultimately the best thing to do was to find a job closer to home that conveyed a healthier work culture. I'd encourage you so heavily to not allow anyone to disrespect your own boundaries and mental or physical health. Now, about 2 weeks after I started that job, I was in Portugal when my dad went into cardiac arrest, eventually putting him in a coma. I had to find a way to travel back home to see him, and when I got there they told us that we had to wait in the waiting room to see if he awoke from this state. I believe we were there for around 3 days, sleeping in this small room, just waiting and hoping for this call that he would wake, but unfortunately he was getting worse over time. Now, following him passing away, I was obviously away from family and friends at the time, so I didn't have the support structure I normally would. So I thought the best thing for me to do at the time was to seek therapy to keep me in a reasonable state and to train me to have coping mechanisms for the grieving and obviously the other stresses I had going on at the same time. But the therapist was fantastic for keeping me going and training my mindset to keep my stress and anxiety under control in a non-judgmental setting. So never feel afraid to seek help from others. But in general, the things I think everyone should be doing to keep their stress under control is exercising, meditating, and getting enough sleep. Exercise has been shown time and time again to have a very positive effect on mood, as well as balancing our hormones in a positive way. For meditation, even taking 10 minutes away from Netflix and using it to meditate every day will make you feel dramatically different. And we are seeing numerous studies now that show that mindfulness can change the brain in a way that makes us less reactive to stressful situations. You could start by using mindfulness apps like Headspace if you find that more useful to be guided. In terms of sleep as a culture, we massively lack sleep now on average, and for many people they aren't sure whether they're getting enough sleep. But I'll make it really simple for you. If you aren't naturally waking before your alarm, you're not getting enough sleep. And when we don't get enough sleep, we build up a sleep deficit over time that sometimes just can't be redeemed again. So I hope you found this useful, and if you did, as always, please follow and share on whatever platform you're watching this on. I've got plenty of other videos that you might be interested in, so please give them a look as well. See you soon.